Welcome to the Home Base Podcast. My name is Damian.
And I am Jenna.
And we are coming at you from our master bedroom.
Yes.
That's how we do things. And this is take two. For all you out there listening, we messed up the first one. There's a small setting on the back of the microphone that either you get more ambient sound or more like close up. And Jenna's accidentally got pressed. We're not going to say who did it.
We don't know how it happened.
I mean, for sure,
I did not
for sure, it wasn't you.
Press the button.
Even though it's probably you, but for sure, we're gonna say it was officially it wasn't.
So
you.
This is the thing about working with your spouse. Like they never go away. You can't you're irritated with each other. They don't. You still have to go to work.
I don't think with my wife, who I love very much. It's very rare that she just says, "Oh yeah, that was my fault," and then we move on. There's always a reason.
I don't remember pressing the button.
See, you don't remember, but I didn't press it.
Maybe you don't remember pressing the button. This is equally possible.
Equally possible. Trying to recap, but see, we don't have the same spirit of like what we talked about the first time. But I think I'm going to eliminate all our mouse things. Just get right to the point. We adopted a feral cat.
We did.
Which was essentially a total disaster. What a waste of time. Through the local shelter, there's a working whiskers program. And they're supposed to be adopted in pairs. But they only had one, so I got this single. It was like, I was asking information and the lady was like, "Do you want to just take it?" It's like, "Oh, okay." And you're supposed to keep it penned in for 3 weeks so it'll establish that this is its home. And so we had an igloo dog house that I cut another hole in the back so it had an escape route, because I read on the internet that it needed like an escape route from predators, so like if it came to the front. And I built a raised platform for it so that way the dog would put its face in it. And then I even built a little ladder for it too.
Yeah, you spent a little bit of time doing all that.
Yeah, I did. That's what I do. I kind of do that kind of stuff because I wanted to do it, well.
Yeah.
I try to think
at least like maybe all the years that I ask you, "Hey, did you YouTube it? Did you research it?" Now you actually you do it on your own.
I didn't research the ladder. I just made that up in my head, but I knew it was easy. So we get this cat, and on its paperwork it says, "Cat is unhandleable." And in the crate, it looks so sweet.
Yeah, I only saw a video of
so
it.
we get it home, and I had gotten like a large dog pen that we had, like the big fencing, and I put some painter's plastic over it, so there was a roof over this, little structure, and I clipped it all in, so that way it was like, sequestered. And then it was Damian's daycare that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes on Fridays, usually it's me, but sometimes Jenna was gone.
We switch off. It's just you get,
75% of it.
Yeah.
80% of
That's
it.
probably right.
So it's me and my 3 kids and 5 other kids, and our Chihuahua. So we're all standing around this.
And our 2 reptiles.
Well, yeah, but they weren't outside.
Oh, okay.
So we're standing around this thing, and so there's a lot of people, and I told Micah to go in, put the carrier down. It was in a carrier, and just let it out, and it'll come out when it's ready. Just walk out, and I'll close it up. Well, it was ready right then. So as soon as he opened it, the thing bolted, but it didn't. It was so scared, it just bolted straight into the walls of the fence, and the fence was jostling back and forth, and I was holding it. And of course, that was the one part I didn't film, or didn't hand it to a kid to film, because that would have been the most interesting, and watch this cat go crazy. And then we got Mike out. The cat was fine. It was in there. I had food and water. And
Micah was fine. He didn't get.
Micah was fine. But he thought it was funny, and he didn't understand the gravity of the situation. Like, if we don't do anything, the cat's gonna be gone forever. And then the cat was there for like 2.5 days. And one night it was windy, and the wind created a little gap in the little ceiling, and sayonara.
Bye, cat.
Bye, cat. I don't think it's coming back.
I don't think so, but we'll leave some food out there for a few days and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So that was an attempt to have a natural rat killer, mouse killer,
Yeah.
so that we don't have to use pesticides or anything like that. Not that I wouldn't use pesticides with rats, because obviously that's bad for animals. But
I mean, the cat might die because other people are using.
Well, I can't control
poison,
that. I cannot control what we do.
Right. This is like our tiptoeing into homesteading.
Yeah, we're talking because the last time we talked about chickens, so we still got that percolating.
That's coming.
Yeah, but we had.
But wait, just to be clear, like we're not homesteaders.
I don't know.
I don't know, but remember, Beth told me we can have meat chickens.
I'm skeptical. I don't know what this is. You explain.
I don't know. Beth said, my friend said that you can get chickens. They're meat birds. I don't remember what she called them. And they only live for 6 to 8 weeks. And then you eat them. So they actually will die after that. I know she said they only live for that amount of time. So if you don't butcher them, they're going to die. Anyway, so I just imagined like they get too fat and then like their legs break or something. But I don't know if I don't know if that's true.
But like, are they like misshapen, misformed? They can't even like do anything. Like they can't walk.
I don't know.
Like they don't even have like 2 legs. They have like a toe, and they just kind of like hobble around. But on your plate, it all looks the same. But before then, you're like, oh, so you don't feel bad about like chopping its head off. You're like,
no, they're chickens.
Or is it just like it's out there? It's out there pecking at the little food, and then it's like 6 weeks, and it just goes, and that's it.
Over, right?
Dead.
Oh, I think that might have yelled in the microphone. And then you can hire a company to just come gather up your chickens, kill them for you, and give you the meat.
And those companies exist in California?
Well,
no.
I mean, she thought maybe Simi Valley.
It's possible.
So, who knows? I'm just saying that's a whole nother homesteading. It falls under the category of homesteading, which I never imagined myself to do. I don't know if I said this on the last episode, but like my grandparents would make fun of me because I would go to their house and there'd be a spider and I'd freak out, and they live in Grass Valley, and it's like, oh, Jenna could never be in the country. She's only a city girl. So I'm like. And
you still get freaked out with spiders.
I don't like insects, but I feel like I am better. And I wouldn't also call myself a city girl because I don't care for the actual
You're a suburbs girl.
I'm a suburb girl.
Yeah.
But I want to, tiptoe into some of these things that, lots of people are into. It's very popular to, homestead. I just don't want to do all the things.
No. Like, I would rather not. But whatever we can, it's kind of like whatever we can manage, I would do up to that point.
Yeah, have some veggies, have a fruit orchard, which then we have to have a cat because we're going to have tons of rats. Some chickens, little by little.
Yeah, and in the city of Westlake Village, you can have 6 fowl. However you want to divide it.
Because they're always going to be dying, so no one would know if there's an extra 2 chickens in the yard.
Yeah, when they just fall over, they come with like a meat thermometer, like on the turkey where it pops. Yeah. Like we'll just hear a ding, and it'll be like, oh, we gotta go get that one. That's dinner tonight. I'm glad it fell over at 2:00 in the afternoon because I didn't know we were gonna cook. Is that a bad joke?
No, it's not a bad joke. I was just thinking, well, I'm sure, someone's gonna say, well, what about the coyotes? You're gonna give more, coyotes are gonna come to our yard if we've got chickens. Possibly.
You know what though? There's that one fox.
Oh, we do have a fox. I've never seen it, so it's still imaginary to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a fox. Yeah, I've seen it like 3 times. Yeah, I've seen it running down the street. Definitely a fox because its tail is as long as its body.
Yeah, and we do get raccoons because we had those before we moved into the house. So
this
those
one
are
raccoon
around.
scares the crap out of me. We had a dumpster. In the when we were doing the construction in the driveway, and I was walking the dog. I guess we were living here. I don't know why we were here at night. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Sometimes we would stay late.
And and I walked out, and it was walking down the ladder of the dumpster like a person. And you just walk out, and there's this giant animal like just staring at you, like, okay, what are you gonna do? And it like just when there's something else there and you see it, it just scares the crap out of you.
Yeah.
And then it darted down the storm drain.
Yeah, gross. Weird.
And I was like talking to it, like you scared me, like it knows. And it was like, okay, are you done talking to me now? Can I go away?
The kids say we live in the country because it's like 5 to 7 minutes to drive from our house to the front of the neighborhood. So they think we live, in the boonies.
Yeah, but we don't, because there's neighbors all around.
But we don't. But we do live like 10 to 12 minutes from the freeway, which is nice because you don't hear anything.
Yeah, the sound does travel up here. You can still hear traffic.
But not really.
Not really. Well, that's because it's so quiet too. Like you can hear like almost anything.
Yeah. So it's like as close to the country that I would maybe venture to live in.
So, what happened last night?
So we had a 4.2 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Malibu last night, which is like through the mountains in our backyard, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe over a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not far.
But it's not far.
Yeah, so maybe as
pretty much
crows
actually.
flies
Like,
to the
if
center.
you look at the map, it's closer to Thousand Oaks than it is to Los Angeles. So it's like
Malibu?
Well, where the earthquake was.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your when something like that happens? What's your reaction?
So do you want me to give you the reaction first, or do you want to give you what was happening from like the things that we know or the things we were reminded about from our Jordan Peterson night? How do you want me to start the story?
Well, you got to weave it all in together, so you can do whatever you want. I'm going to give you the freedom.
Okay, I'm going to start with Jordan Peterson. So everybody knows, I think, who Jordan Peterson is.
And if you don't, I would suggest looking into him. Brilliant guy, psychologist from Canada, who is, he might get his license revoked because he's not down with all the stuff he's supposed to be down with. Right. And he's like, I don't like that. And they were like, we're going to take your license away. So he doesn't know how it's going to play out, but he's kind of everywhere right now. And he came to town, so we couldn't resist going to see him give a lecture.
Yeah. So it was like like you couldn't even take notes. It was so full. Like he's so intelligent. He has so many things to say.
He's so intelligent, and he has like this library of references in his head. So he can reference every point that he's making, and it all fits, because obviously he gives a bajillion lectures. But if you snooze, you're gonna like come to, and he's gonna be off on a tangent it's not a tangent, it's a point that weaves in, but you're not gonna know where he goes. Like you have to pay attention.
Yeah, but it does seem like tangents because he will talk for several minutes about some small part of, what's the bigger picture. And I mean, we went because we really do always like to learn. Well,
I think there's a lot of reasons to learn, right? You want to get better. You want to learn more about the world and, gain wisdom. And if you're not learning, it's like life's just so boring. Like it just becomes all the same. But when you learn new things, it's like a whole new world.
Yeah.
In a small way.
Yeah. So we read a lot, or I probably read a little bit more than
But we've established that I probably have like a very low level dyslexia, so reading is kind of hard for me.
Yes. So dyslexia is hereditary, and we surmise that Damian has some very mild dyslexia because he hates reading, one, is a very slow reader, two, and what was the other thing? I thought there was something else we were talking about the other day that was characteristic of dyslexia.
Oh, I don't know, but
now I don't remember.
Well, our daughter is dyslexic. She's going to be 9, and her reading tutor that she goes to one day was like, oh, one of you I've talked to, there's like a couple things, and it sounds like this. I'm like, oh, those are all my things. Like, oh, that actually would explain a fair amount, but it's not very severe, and obviously this isn't a formal diagnosis, but it's not severe enough that it like hindered me.
Right.
I was able to like figure it out, and I, you know, did well in school and all that, but there's just some things that I just don't do well at. Reading's one of them.
Yeah. But I love to read. I would sit and read like all day if I could sometimes. So I don't. Sometimes I do. I do put books in the bathroom because the kids don't bother me in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually kind of get a lot of reading done that way. Anyway,
can I say one dyslexia thing that tipped the teacher off?
Yes. Oh, yes. You can share
Okay,
this.
so it's really stupid. If you look at the Disney logo, like where it says Walt Disney, it looks like his signature and it says Disney. For years and years, I didn't realize, I was like, why is that a D? I couldn't see that it was a D because I kind of almost, I couldn't see the shape. I sort of focused on the left half of it, which looks like a musical note. And I couldn't see the D. And then when I got older, I could finally see the whole thing. And then I realized, oh, it's a D. But then that's not how I was used to seeing it. So then I kind of trained my brain to see how I used to see it. Like I saw it the correct way and I'm like, no, I don't like that. Let's go back to the old way. Yeah.
Sounds a little bit ridiculous.
And people are like, how is that possible? How can you, it is what it is. But I don't know, in my head, I kind of see it.
It was your story and you wanted to stay in that world. Yeah. He actually, Jordan talked about, Mr. Peterson talked about perception as well. And so it was a fascinating lecture. But one of the things that he was talking about, and I can't remember exactly how it related. Oh, I think it was because he was talking about when in our world, in our life, we have to ignore so many things, and everything is this like matter of perception. Mm-hmm. And so there could be so many, there are so many different ways to perceive something. I'm gonna butcher this, but these are not his words. This is my paraphrasing. But it would be overwhelming for our brains to see all these possibilities of how everything could unfold. Like picking up a cup, you're not actually picking up the cup. It's like the perception that you're picking up the cup is like kind of bizarre stuff. But, and so our brains have to turn off a lot of things. So we just have to pick one to follow.
Yeah, but you could even say, like, if you just look at, like, if you're just looking out in a crowd, if you actually pick up everything, it's overwhelming because there's 2,000 people out there, or 100, doesn't matter. And there's the lights, and then there's smells, and there's the this, and there's this object you see over here. Like, there's just way too much. You kind of just, you have areas of focus because there's no way your brain could take in all that information at once. So by default, you're kind of picking and choosing what you focus on.
And so one of his examples was, like, let's say you're going to work and you walk to work and you're walking along and you're just in your zone. You know, it's like when you're driving and you forget all your turns because you're going home and you just know how to get there. And you hear a loud noise, like a wooden beam falling from a construction site. And so your natural response is first to, like, cower. Cower's not the right word. You, like, go into this, like, hunching.
You duck.
You're protecting your body, right? You don't know what's going to happen. This is an instinctual move. And then you duck and you turn around to see what happened behind you so that then you can make the next decision, right? Like, you've got to be ready to go. And this is primal. This doesn't require thinking. It's subconscious.
It's like a fight or flight response.
It's fight or flight. It's within 1/10 of a second. And then once you evaluate the situation, oh, it was just, construction site, you go back into your zone. Mm-hmm. And everything tunes back out again. And, but you've got this cortisol flooding through your body. Like, it's a real deal, right? And a lot of people talk about fight or flight because we don't run from saber-toothed tigers anymore, but we can create these kinds of environments in ourselves, and your boss that's going to yell at you because you didn't get your,
Could you imagine, like, if, pretend that, like, most of us take the bus, you were, like, waiting for a bus, and you're, like, you have to worry about saber-toothed tigers, like, coming up from behind you and attacking you? like how different life would be.
Yeah, I don't really want to live in that world. But it can feel like that sometimes when you're like something's like hanging over my shoulder, like metaphorically.
Yeah.
You're just, waiting for the bomb to drop. So anyway, I had this experience last night that proved Jordan Peterson's, little description.
So it's instinctive for you to, as soon as something is going wrong, you wake me up.
Yes.
That's what it is. Wake me up. I know what's going on. And
Right.
I'm like, oh.
I told you, you're the protector. Why would I deal with anything scary by myself?
Damian.
So no, I just go it was in the middle of the night. It was at 2 a.m. when the earthquake hit. So it was crazy because immediately I'm awake and I know it's an earthquake.
That hurt. You just hit me.
Sorry, that's what happens. I know it's an earthquake.
You hit me that hard last night.
I did or didn't?
You did not.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to
It was as fast, but it was like,
I didn't mean to hit you hard.
yeah.
Anyway, but
I'm tough.
The point for me was that it's an interesting experience because I woke up and said it's an earthquake at the same time. Like I didn't have conscious time to evaluate the surroundings, really. It was this just like, I woke up, I knew it was an earthquake, and you must be awake if there's something happening that is concerning in our home.
And I think my attitude was, it doesn't sound like anything's fallen, so it's fine, go back to sleep.
I couldn't go back to sleep because I'm waiting, with earthquakes, sometimes the first one isn't the biggest one. Sometimes, when it's a rolling earthquake, it can start out slow and get bigger. This was a fast one. It was only probably 2 seconds or something. But
usually if there's an earthquake, like the first wave of the earthquake might not be the biggest, but like the biggest is usually the earthquake, and then there can be aftershocks from there.
Right. So I just was making sure there wasn't going to be another bigger one, and there wasn't. But there was an aftershock when I was going to the bathroom, so I made sure I braced myself for a second. If you live in California, if you don't live in California, I mean,
if you don't live in California, earthquake is the craziest thing, and if you live here, you're like, yeah.
They're still kind of terrifying.
They really can
shaking.
be. They really can be. If it's big enough, then things fall, and houses crack and break, and buildings break and all that. But if they're little ones, it's really a non-issue.
Well, and then as a mother, you go into this are the children okay?
They didn't even wake up.
No, they didn't wake up. But I checked on everybody. I made sure nobody woke up. Aston was kind of moving in his bed, so maybe he felt it, but he didn't actually wake up. And everyone's okay. And then
so what you're saying is, as a Californian, somewhere in your blood, you feel the earthquakes.
Maybe.
There is a sound. There's a sound that sounds. It could also just be it's just that rattling, that shaking. Sometimes you don't know if it's an earthquake because you might hear it before you feel it.
There is, yeah.
So there can be similar sounds. So it's a common thing. If it's really windy and the house creaks or something, that can be it. But then it sounds kind of like thunder, like the clouds rolling a little bit, and then there's movement.
Right.
One of the things that Dr. Peterson talked about that I thought was really, that I'm remembering, because there was so much and we unpacked a lot of it. Coming home, it was an intense lecture, and then we're coming up talking about it, and Jenna, she turns into a pumpkin at 9 o'clock.
I mean, maybe 9:30.
So it was 9:45, and we were driving home.
Yeah.
She has that look on her face, okay, I'm done. And then she announced soon thereafter, okay, I'm done. No more talking. But he was talking about essentially lying.
Yeah, I talked to a friend about this as well.
It was in terms of a lot of the social things that are going on, and what maybe some companies are requiring people to do. And he was saying that if you he was using this he kind of used it as a jumping off point. If you don't stay true to yourself all the time, and then if you say things that you don't believe to be true, one, whose words are you saying?
I thought that was a really powerful thing.
I thought it was really powerful. So like, and you don't know what their motives would be. I think that's what he was implying, right? And then also, you don't know what the result of the lying or not actually telling the truth is going to have on your life.
Right.
So now you extrapolate that out, over many choices in your lifetime or a short period of time, and you might very well end up in a place that you really don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you tell the truth all the time, the end result will be, it basically it's going to be all on you, which is what you would rather have it than putting it in somebody else's hands. I thought that was really, it's like, I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, it reminds me of the verse. I mean, it's in the Gospels. I just don't know where. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Like you say the truth, and you're not wishy-washy. You're not, saying a lie. You're not saying no, I'm not really that way. When you really are, you're standing up for who you are. Your word is, ultimately maybe the only thing we actually have.
And if we want to, it made me think of the Michael Burnoff thing, where like be decisive.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the interaction we have with people, especially younger people, is they're not decisive. It's always like everything's it's a yes or no question, and they give you a maybe.
Right.
And his thing is just make a decision, put that in motion, and then you can just change your mind later.
Right.
But if
it might not work out, and that's okay.
But if you're if you're dealing with somebody who can't make up their mind, it's the whole what do you want for dinner? I don't know. Well, what do you want? I don't know. You just never get anywhere. So if you do that, if that's your life philosophy that you don't realize, you're never going to get anywhere. So you might as well make a decision, go for it, and then go, oh, I'm going to change my mind. He's like, you're allowed to change your mind. It's okay. But at least it points you in a direction.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of our view of schooling as well. That's always been our view of schooling. It's always been, we're going to start with this idea, or we're going to start at this school. And then if it doesn't work for our family, then we'll make a change. So Micah was in the public school system for TK, and then we evaluated that. Now we were at 2 different schools in 2 different school districts because we had some really ridiculous things happen at a previous district. I'm not going to share that story because we've shared
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It still gets me fired up.
Yeah.
But there were aspects of that public school system that we really didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though he had been to 2 schools in 1 year, and it was a traumatic year for him. He broke his leg. He was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. We had
as a new kid in the middle of the year of the school.
That was really, he probably needs to do some unpacking with that. Who knows where that's shoved. But anyway.
But then in the fall, we got him to a different school.
We still decided to change him yet again. He went to a 3rd school in, 2 years' time. That was a charter, so still part of the public school system, but did things a little bit differently. Yeah. And we felt like that was a really great fit for our family. And then when things changed and that wasn't a fit anymore, then we decided to move them to homeschooling. And so I don't really see us not homeschooling at this point, but I'm not saying that, it's a for sure. Who knows? Maybe one of them will end up back in a school of some sort. It won't ever be public school, but just the fact that you can start out on a path and know that this is what is right for me right now, with also knowing I'm open if things need to change in the future, and not be so rigid and stuck on one concept. And being able to change with what's needed, because we just don't, I always say, you only have the information that you have at the time, right? So you're trying to make the best decision that you can at the time, and you can't fault yourself for that.
Right. And at the same time, don't think too hard that like you have to make this perfect decision, because then you'll never make a decision. So you're like, okay, this is the information that I have now. This is the best information, or this is the best decision for me or my family. Make it, and then know that like, don't like think like, well, I can always change my mind, which is an option. Don't like think like I got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Go in 2 feet. But if it doesn't start to work anymore, then you are free to make a different call.
And it also doesn't mean that like, that you need to have any regrets or that you wasted any time.
Right.
Like it's all part of the process of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that Dr. Peterson said about, I think it was in terms of lying, is like I think it was basically like, life's an adventure. Don't you want to have your own adventure?
Yeah. It made me think about just like
the movie Up.
No, it made me think about our life and like our wedding vows and how we always were like, we want to just have an adventure together for the rest of our life. When you said that, that's what I thought of. I didn't think of the movie Up. So now I know what you were thinking about.
That's not actually what I was thinking about. I was thinking that life is an adventure, like not in the Indiana Jones sense, but if you're out there like trying to really do life and making decisions and doing different things and really trying to be active in your life, like life's crazy. Like if kind of like what he was talking about, like if you find people boring, like it's not, people are so weird.
Yeah.
They're just so weird. Like if you really like start to unpack like what a person really thinks, like they're just, everybody's wacky, right? But it's kind of like that with life. Like if you think life is boring, that means you're just like letting life happen to you. You're not doing anything to life, because life is crazy.
Right.
Like if you surround yourself with different people, like in a good way, not like different quotes people, do different things and try to have different experiences and all that, like life's not in the sense of like you have to have some grand adventure and go on safari, like just doing life and then having kids, and they're a freaking adventure in themselves.
It reminds me of just, so much if you are a Christian and you're, trying to follow what God has planned for you. Like there's so many of these questions, like what's God's will for my life? And so like 2 things that come to mind is, one, you have to be an active participant.
Mm-hmm.
Like God's not just going to drop things out of the sky for you all of the time. We do have miracles for sure, but we have to take that step as well. I think God will open and close doors.
It's that stupid joke, where the guy's stuck on his house in a flood and he prays to God, like God will save me. And like, I forget what it is, like guy comes by in a boat. He's like, no, can I help you? No, God's going to come. And then then somebody comes by in a helicopter, and I forget how the joke goes. And then the guy ends up dying in the flood.
Right.
And he goes to heaven and he says to God, well, how come you didn't save me? He's like, what are you talking about? I sent a boat, sent a helicopter, I did this. Like, you didn't take me up on any of it. What do you want me to do?
Right. And like the answer, what I love, at least because from our pastor atmosphere, is Jim Cruz, is that, a lot of what he says is the closer you are to God, the more you're in the Word, your will become God's. Like it's not so much about does my will match God's. It's no, if I get closer to God, then my will just be absorbed, because it's all transforming. But one of the things I think about too is like my parents used to tell me, like your life as an adventure is, just think about it as the backyard. It's fenced in, but you have this whole yard. And like, I don't know that God is saying all of the time, I have this one thing for you to do. Like you can try different things. And as long as you're
like start a podcast,
right? Like we have the whole yard. And so Be adventurous, try something new. Like God is with us.
Right.
And so maybe sometimes there is like a direct, okay,
Yeah.
I know God is calling me to do this, or, you know, I'm being pushed to do this
Right.
thing. But sometimes it's like, just like give it a shot, give something a shot.
Well, and also I think about our backyard. Like our backyard is big, but it's pretty like wild. It's not, you know, it's not all dialed in with like this perfect patio and a pool and the pool house and all the things we'd like to do with it. But at the same time, it also might be serving what our family needs right now. Like the kids go out there with their friends, and they like just play with sticks and do crazy stuff and build little forts. And we have, you know, we try to have a feral cat, and you know, we got Mike a BB gun. He goes out there and shoots cans. Like that might just be like, you know, what we have, and that's good.
And God's gonna use you or use the situation for, you know, whatever that space is. And I was thinking too, like, oh, did I say that last time? I don't know. Just like this.
That's
whole,
the thing with Jenna is when she whispers, is it for me or is it for her?
Oh, it's probably internal.
But
really.
sometimes I always have to be listening, because I don't know if she's talking to me. She'll just talk in a normal voice and I'll be across the room, but she's talking to me. So I've learned that, yeah, I just have to be listening. I have to check in. Was that for me? No. Okay.
Okay, just another, like, you know, aha that I had recently was that I told you when I was reading Forgotten God by Francis Chan, and just how some of us can be very like, okay, what is God's will for our life? Like, it is so specific, and there's got to be something big or good or whatever, and we forget to, well, either we have a plan that we think is, you know, what God wants us to do, and then we stop talking to him because we just follow this plan. We're like, oh, we're good, we got the goal, we've got the plan, I know this is what God wants. And then sometimes for some of us it can feel like, oh, what is this plan? What is this like thing I'm supposed to do with my life? And when am I going to know that I've accomplished that thing? And instead you just lean on God during all the little baby steps. Walk through one door at a time. Enjoy the adventure. You're never going to see the whole picture. And you're going to go on one route that you think maybe is going to lead you somewhere, and when that really wasn't the intention. That route was meant to lead you on another route, you know? Yeah,
but what we've learned in our line of work is, if you're trying things, if you're doing, like really doing things, like working, just trying to, you know, make your way, like opportunities and things will happen for you. So don't like, and things will fall out of the sky sometimes, but when you're doing nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So if you just do something, it'll take you somewhere, whether that's the final destination or not. It's almost not important, but if you just do, you know, productively, then something good will happen.
Right.
But I wanted to, like, one of the things that I'm probably gonna not say what Jordan Peterson said correctly.
Oh, I didn't either.
But he was talking about, like, basically you serve a God. Which God do you serve?
Yeah.
And it was in terms of talking about like how other religions or faiths in human history have, you know, like the God of anger, you know, so you know, lust, you know, you're serving these sort of bottom, primal, unilateral, you know, lateral things, and like what, it's just not good. It's like, basically it's not going to get you anywhere. Like, and so whatever God you're serving, you better be sure that it's like a good one, because those things just end up, one, they're primitive, and then two, like, they're just gonna wind you up in chaos.
And atheism doesn't exist because you're always serving some.
That's what it was. That's what it was. That was the point. Atheism doesn't. Yeah, can't be an atheist because you're serving some God of some sort. And then if you take it further and you talk about like Jesus, well, he's the perfect combination of like harnessing all the faults of humanity and doing it because he didn't sin, doing it productively, doing life. That's talking about Jesus in like a clinical sense, I guess. You would kind of say, not with all the spiritual stuff,
but it also is, just a different way of looking at, in scripture just talks about, who are you serving? What are your idols? And sometimes it can be hard to think about, well, what's my idol? It's just kind of a word that's not very tangible. But when you do think about it as like, okay, well, there's like these many little gods. I'm not saying I believe in one God, I believe in Jesus, but right, it's just another terminology to help us understand
but also
something else is
you
ruling
get sidetracked.
and what is it that's ruling you? Is lust ruling you? Is pornography ruling you? Is alcohol ruling you? And
is it jealousy? Is it apathy?
Right. And so it was an interesting, thought-provoking.
Yeah. That was the point. So I'm glad you remembered. Like, basically, there is no such thing as atheism in some way because you're always serving some sort of God. It's just your version of what that is.
Yeah.
And it just depends who you surround yourself with and who you listen to plays a big part in that. So you need to choose your circles. Why? That's not what he said, but that's what I'm saying. You need to choose your circles wisely because we want to surround ourselves with people who are going to build ourselves up and support us and call us on our stuff.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Because that's real love. Is like he was talking about. There's really no such thing as unconditional love. He said, he's like in some sense, like a parent saying, like, you're a kid, your kid, you can always kind of stay here in some sense, but if you're really that destructive, like, you can't just be like, oh, it's okay. Like, you have to, you gotta get off the pills. Like, you gotta, like, that's love is looking out for that person, essentially, whether they're looking out for themselves or not. And that might not be the thing that they want to hear at the moment.
Yeah.
It is a kick in the butt.
Yeah. That's why I love our life group too, because it's like our little small group Bible study at church, because it's about people who are, who are looking out for the best interests of others. And if there was something that, came up, someone could say, hey, are you sure that's, the right thing? We haven't had that situation yet, but I trust those people. And if they were to come to me and say that, I think everybody has some level of defensiveness that would come up, but at the same time, like, those people, are, God-fearing people and God-loving people, and they want to help you, and like, I just really value those types of friends.
Yeah, and we know people who sometimes they surround themselves with a lot of yes people. It's just yes to all the fun, but it kind of only ends up in chaos and destruction. Because those people, it's just about like whatever is the whim at the moment. There's no long-term plan. It's one of the things that Dr. Peterson talked about is like you serving yourself. Like he's like, and basically having integrity, making good decisions. That is about making a decision that's good for you now, good for you later, and good for you essentially indefinitely for your life.
Right.
And so when you do that helps you, and it also helps your community, because you're not gonna like do something good for you now, but it squashes this person. So then, then that sows seeds of regret or anger on their part. And so I think having that in your decision making, where you're thinking long term, like, making good decisions of high integrity, so that way you don't actually maybe have to really think long term. You're like, this is just the right thing to do, and I know that it's never going to come back to bite me, like whatever that might be. Then, because like in our community, which we've lived in, we left after childhood and then came back, and we've done business with our business for the last 11 years. We see the same people yet again. Mm-hmm. And
all the circles overlap.
Overlap, and people come back around, and maybe they're not as involved in our business as they once were, but I would think like our relationships with them are pretty good. So they're like, oh, hi, how's it going? And maybe doesn't mean we're going to do business with them again, but at least somebody is like, oh yeah, I know them, they're good people.
Right.
They never steered me wrong.
Right. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot.
Forgot I talked too long.
Yeah.
That was also one of the things. He's like 3 questions at the end, Jordan Peterson, and he got down. And his wife was like, "Hey, one more question." He's like, "Maybe 2 if I don't talk too long." And he talked like so long. It was really good. As soon as he started talking, he's like, "There is no way that he's gonna answer another question." He just the explanations he gives are these really ornate.
Well, they're multifaceted.
Multifaceted.
That's what I think I really loved about that lecture, was that it wasn't this one-dimensional answer on anything. It was, let's look at multiple perspectives and let's like pull this apart. And so you can look at something.
And there were things he was like, he would get to a point, like he was basically talking about the existence of God at something. And he's like, well, we really don't know for sure. Like there's certain things like we just don't know for sure, and he's willing to. But then here's what we do know.
Right, you can't metaphysically prove a God at this point, right? So is what he was saying.
It was basically he's just talking about all the things, but all the things that he like are like it's like, let's try to figure out the truth of the matter.
Yeah,
we're gonna try.
He did. I told you, if you know the Bible enough, you would be able to know that he quoted scripture. I didn't count how many times, but 5 to 10 times at least.
Well, he studied the Bible.
Yeah, and so he knows the Bible enough to say, this thing here, this is the God of Exodus. This thing here, this is the God of Deuteronomy. Like
he's got a whole series on Exodus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But it was, he's not quoting any of the other, kind of religions, which is interesting.
I think it was him. He was talking about, well, one of the things he talked about for sure in that lecture was the importance of story and how people see the world through a narrative.
Yes.
That's really how we don't see the world as here's an object. It's like, the narrative behind what we're going to do with the object and what it is and what it means. Like that's how we interpret the world. That's why there's, in human history, there's stories. But also, I think it was him I've seen is essentially like the most important story is the Bible, because everything was built on, if our narratives are built on stories, the most important story in all of human history are those stories. So, and it's a collection of stories. It's not just one.
Right.
But that's the foundation of it all, and the importance that plays in our society. Something like that.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure that you can find. He's got a million YouTube clips.
Yeah. And
I'm on his email list, and there's always he's got something else. And his interviews are long. His podcasts are long, but he interviews very interesting people. But what I said to Jenna, I think today was, just talking, and he's actually surprisingly funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes he was trying to be, and sometimes he wasn't, but just the things he was saying that were humorous,
Well, what I appreciate about him too is that he is such an intellectual, but then he also is very normal. Like he has different sides of himself. Yeah. And so you don't always get that with someone who's academic. They're not socially.
I didn't feel he was overly impressed with himself. I think he's confident.
Right.
But I think it was more about serving the purpose of the information he's giving than, oh, come look at me.
Right. He wants you to think. He wants to present enough information so that you will think. Yeah.
But it was amazing, kind of like you're in this, Thousand Oaks is a small city, right? And 125,000 people, surrounding area, there's more. Obviously people drive in, but I'm pretty sure it was a sold out thing. About 4,000 seats, right? And it's like, isn't it like there's no performance. Somebody just came to see this person give a lecture.
Well, there wasn't even a topic.
No, it was his tweet for the day.
Here's Jordan Peterson, let's go see him. We don't even know what he's going to talk about.
It was just like crazy that somebody, essentially was so dedicated to their work that, over the years got so good at it that enough people like around the world want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Just to hear like thought.
Yeah.
And a perspective that maybe it would improve their lives if they heard him speak and they could pull one thing. Maybe they're not all thinking that, but
I don't know. The guy next to us was thinking that, but
on the edge of his seat, very antsy. It was like, he just made me very.
It's like, relax.
Yeah, just chill. Like, just
making me nervous.
Cussed a couple of times.
He did?
Under his breath,
Oh.
yeah. A couple, yeah. Just I don't know, like something happened, and it says like, I don't know who he's talking. He's just one of those guys. Everything is.
He was eccentric. So
what
he's
the
either on
what the
drugs
F,
or
Yeah, it probably was. Well, yeah, we'd gone out to dinner. We had made a little date night, and we went and we had some dinner. We shared a bottle of wine, and then we went over there. And then he starts talking. And you're like, oh man,
right?
Maybe I should have.
Wine was not a good
idea
choice.
because I'm a little down. Like, and I remember seeing the people walk into the theater and they bought wine at the venue. Going, oh yeah, all these people drinking and listening to him is a terrible idea. Like,
yeah, you gotta
get
focus.
Stone cold sober, and you gotta lock in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull everything out that you can.
Yeah, but he's still on tour right now. I know he's going on. He said he was going on Joe Rogan in a few days.
Yeah, on the 27th of January.
So I don't know when that'll actually air, but he's gonna go and talk about his situation. So he's like, I'm curious how that'll turn out. It's like, that's an interesting attitude. I'm sure he's had some different words, privately, but to move forward with curiosity, that was also like, I wonder what's gonna happen. Was it good, bad? I don't know. But even if he lost his license, his practice now is essentially lecturing rather than
right.
I don't know if the license really means anything. It's more of it would be more symbolically than anything.
Well, he just couldn't do any more clinical work, so.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he's really doing that now anyway.
Yeah. Just you throughout this conversation, I just keep getting into the unknown. Just keeps going through my head, right?
Yeah.
And it can be scary and it can be exciting and depends on what your perspective is at that moment in time.
And then like a lot of times with these, especially if you're in a business of everything's just so, I guess, overproduced, and you assume everything is going to be like, you come out to some song and then you wrap it up perfectly like a movie, and then the band plays you off, and and this show there was music. A classical guitarist. He came out basically so people they could buy some time for latecomers. So show was supposed to start at 7:30. He came out right about 7:30 and then played for 20 minutes. And then Jordan's wife came on for 10 minutes and talked. And then she goes, and here's Dr. Peterson, and he just walks out. And then at the end of his lecture, his wife comes back out and she reads him three questions, and he talks, right? And then he stands up and he goes, all right, it was nice talking to all of you. Waves and just walks off. There's no like big song or dance, and that's the end. It's it's just a guy.
Right.
There's no production. But there's something kind of like really, really beautiful in the simplicity. Like if you really have the goods, you don't need all of that. That's all to like kind of maybe in some sense hide behind, make it seem bigger, unless that's your thing is spectacle. But if your thing is like the meat, then that's enough.
Then that's enough. So with that,
so this is the face she makes.
We should say goodbye.
This is the face she makes when it's like, okay, you're done talking, I'm done listening, I'm done with this conversation. So if you can't see it. I mean, you can find it on YouTube. If you're listening. Go to the end and you'll see this like stern, plain look, and it's like, oh, that's the one. That's the one I got.
Start zoning out.
That's the one I got the other night when I was driving home. We were about 4 minutes from home, and she's just like, no, it's not. I can see it happening, and I had to finish my thought, and then I realized I'd taken it too far.
Yes.
She's doing it again.
All right.
That's it. It's nice talking to everybody. We'll talk to you next time.